welcome. This is our round table. We have just a handful of women today, and we'll do another session and include that in the recording eventually. We are the TERF Gun Club. We are strong women, and we want to, make a future for women and children that is sustainable, and beautiful, and yeah. So we're all here today to have a little discussion. My name is Alex, or Pinwheel Art is what I've been known as in this movement. I am a mother of 5. We're just going to say I'm in my 40s. Mother of 5, and I live in the South, and I've been organizing events called Free Speech for Women events for the past, I think, going on maybe 6 years now. It's been too long. I am an artist. I work in community. And so my background is actually in social justice work, which has really made me sad to see what's happening with that kind of work in the world at the moment. It has become something that I can't recognize. So I came to this movement because I'm a mother, because I love women. I also am very concerned about maternity, the language changing in those institutions, as well as our laws, policies, statistics, and all of that. I came to this when I saw this language changing within the birthing world, where I saw mother and woman being erased. When initially we had been fighting for language that centered women and that was humanizing, somehow we got a complete turnaround to this very dehumanizing erasure of women. And I watched women get shut down, and I could no longer just watch. I had to speak out. I had to start connecting with women and find out why this was happening. Why women who were initially fighting for women-centered language were now perfectly fine erasing us. And so I started meeting women and organizing free speech for women events on the ground in the Southeast, but I was also trying to connect women nationally. And I think we were pretty successful with that, even though our voices have been severely suppressed. It looks like we've lost Aja for a moment, but hopefully she comes back. Kristin, are you ready? Would you like to share next?
Sure, I'm Kristin. I'm a Southern political writer, radical feminist, and a new first-time mother. My Substack, where I write, is peachyradfem.com. I came to turfing out of a refusal to lie about reality, especially after seeing how the effects of gender ideology particularly presented themselves on the bodies of young women and girls in ways that they weren't, or in not as permanent ways as they were presenting themselves on them as they were the men who were in these groups.
Beautiful. And Juliana, would you like to go next?
Sure. So I came into this the gender ideology concept really organically. I'm a lesbian. I was born and raised in San Francisco, hence the Golden Gate Bridge behind me. I'm not there anymore, but my parents did not want to raise their children in San Francisco, and now I know why. They had their own reasons that were not the expansive queer theory takeover that I've observed happened. I was very innocently on a dating website, or a dating app rather, called Lex, Lex, that originated as just an Instagram page for lesbians. And at the time, this happened in September, October of 2021, there were no profile pictures. That's what I mean by throwback. It was like posting singles ads, like you would used to see in newspapers and things. So there's kind of a sweet element to it, you know. And so I was searching for lesbians, and I found I messaged, took the initiative and messaged a person, what I thought was a woman, because I searched for lesbians, and after a few messages exchange, you know, again, this is just text and there are no photos whatsoever. I went, something feels a little off here. There was just something that wasn't right. And so I went back and looked at the person's profile, and they had the abbreviation MTF. And again, I was incredibly naive to what was going on in the LGB, and then, you know, of course, the TQAI plus, all the crap. And so I Googled MTF, and I found out that meant male to female. And I went, oh, well, that's why things feel weird, because I'm talking to a man. So it's very funny to me when you see these, you know, when you see men who are pretending to be women, or, you know, men trying to present as women and wear our clothes and makeup and, you know, synthetic sex bots is what Bielik calls them, something along those lines. They're like, see, you can never tell. We pass. And like, I didn't even need to see a photograph to know that something was wrong. Not something was wrong, but there was something, you know, it's like your spidey senses start to tingle. So that led me to, I thought I was confiding in people that loved me, my own family, and I was called a bigot, a TERF, and a transphobe. And I went, oh my God, what has happened in society that now my sexuality is inherently bigoted because I made what I thought was an innocuous statement. I'm not going to date trans. I used the phrase trans women at the time because I didn't have any other language. I said, I'm not going to date a trans woman. They are not women. And that was it. That's all I said. I didn't say I want to. That's literally it. And that got me labeled all these things. And yeah, then I looked up Judith Butler, and I found gender ideology and queer theory, and that's it. I'm starting a Substack. It's called Darker Than the Devil, and you can find that on Substack. I haven't made my first post yet, but I'm about to. It might also be called Behind is in Front, because I truly feel like we need to look backwards in order to move forwards. Because we're, you know, it's kind of like we've been overcome by this technology giant that's like move fast and break things, which is kind of the exact opposite of how women approach things. It's an incredibly masculine approach to life. So yeah, I've done activism, but I'll talk about that a little later. I feel like I've gone on long enough. Aja, go ahead.
Yes, please.
Thank you all. Yes, I just went away for a second to shut my door. But hi, my name is Aja. As you can see, that I'm Black, I'm African American. I am also a Jewish woman. I'm also a lesbian. I am it's a funky line between divorced, but I also feel like I was widowed, which I've spoken about on Peak Lesbian, Carol's podcast. But I am raising my teenager solo. And the reason I came to this movement through a lot of factors. I was so fortunate to grow up in Houston, Texas, which had has and had, well, I've left, so I'm not sure what it's like now, but I grew up with a really strong feminist community. I attended Houston Women's Group every week. There was such lovely lesbian community. There were I will use the term LGBT because it was for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans identifying youth. A youth group that was actually healthy and safe, with boundaries, and adults with background checks. And it was held, in places where parents would be there, parents would walk around and see the space, and they would actually talk about sex ed in an actual educational way that wasn't gross and pornographic. And they would do, STI testing, like actual boundaried, healthy environments. And around the late 2010s, early 2020s, I noticed that things were changing. Language that I never heard was being introduced. I heard some revisionist history. Oh, I'm also a PhD student in English, and I've also studied history. And I just, as a writer and a historian, I'm like, this isn't matching up here. Wait a minute. Some of this I was alive for. Some of this I learned from the elders, many of whom are still with us, and this isn't happening. And particularly with 2020, with everyone stuck in their houses, everyone looking at the news, everyone looking online, and everyone getting involved, I heard so much rhetoric of conflations between groups that had never been conflated before in a manner that was not befitting. So, for instance, all of a sudden, I'm seeing trans identifying people integrating themselves into Black and brown spaces where they hadn't been before. And these were white trans identifying people saying, wait a minute, you were never you weren't here for us. You weren't even here for the Black and brown trans identifying people. So what are you doing here now? What are you talking about now? And so but as a mother, I the big push for me came when I saw the rising number of children identifying as trans. And this wasn't new, but I mean, the numbers were just skyrocketing. And this was more than just, oh, the environment's more accepting. Like, no, this is something else. This is something else that's going on. And then when I would talk about detransitioners on my social media pages, I was called by people who knew me for over 10 years horrible, bigoted, conservative. I'm like, wait a minute, you people know me. I'm none of those things. And that's when I realized there was something much larger going on here where people are not able to see and hear their own loved ones. That this was something bigger than the average person when people who I thought loved me and knew me were all of a sudden treating me like, uh, 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 someone on Turning Point USA. So.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you for sharing, ladies. As you can see, we're a pretty diverse group, even in this small little group here. And that's an interesting topic. I'd love to hear more about what everyone has kind of lost, because I know we've all lost something from speaking up about this issue. Personally, I've lost my best friend of 30 years. I have family who hasn't really stopped talking to me, but they've definitely turned against me in ways for speaking out. They are saying pretty nasty things about me that aren't true, just that, you know, and I don't really know why, especially people who I saw as feminists. They seem to either be scared to talk about the issue, so instead they get really hurtful and hateful towards people speaking out, or they agree with it and then they're just kind of rabid about it because it's not logical. So they can't really argue about it. They can't have a debate about it. It turns very quickly, as I'm sure you all have experienced, into just insults. So I'd love to hear about your experience with that, each of you. And we can start with Kristin.
Well, I started out as part of a gender expansive group in my college town. And at some point, you learn the scripts, and I guess people do turn against you so passionately because they know that if they actually argue with you, they'll probably slip up and end up on your side, even if they don't mean to. So I've lost lots of friends. I've become estranged from family members, even. Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, they know that this is the right side and they just don't want to get caught slipping up so that they don't get ostracized themselves.
Yes, that's so true. That fear of ostracization, being ostracized, sorry, is it's really powerful because we are social creatures. We want to have those social circles. We want to be accepted. And, if you're not used to being the odd man out, like I think it was easier for me to speak up because I am used to being an odd man out. Like I'm very used to being the misfit of the misfits. I've never fit in very well anywhere because I'm very introverted, and I'm an artist, and I have very strong, passionate opinions on things, and I think that makes it hard for some people, to be able to come to terms with the reality of it, that it is actually really harmful for women and children. And I think at this point it's gone so far, they kind of don't know how to rein it back in, like it's gone so far, and I'm over here telling you that women are being harmed in prisons, and these men are showing themselves in locker rooms to little girls, and and they just have to keep going, like they just keep going harder for it. So Juliana, would you like to go and share?
Sure. So, yeah, I wouldn't say I've lost family members, but I did for a time. And that was really, really difficult. It was my own brother and sister, and, I asked my parents to maybe stand up for me, and they would not. And that was really hurtful. Like I said, from San Francisco, I live in Southern California now, and I'm very family oriented. I've gone home every single year for Christmas since I've lived down here, and I'm in my 40s now, and I moved down here when I was 18, just to give you an idea of how many times I've done the trek. And in 2021, I had a car rented and everything, and I got the most hellacious text messages from my sibling, and it was like she was treating me like some sort of social justice program and not a person. And I remember telling her at one point, "Who are you even talking to right now? It just seems like you're just spouting rhetoric. You're not listening to me." I ended up having to block her. She started in on me on other social media platforms. It was a mess. So I canceled my reservation in my car, and I said, there's no way I'm spending all my time and money to be treated this way. So that was really painful. I lost my two best friends from college. We've known each other for half our lives. I lived with one of them, and her son. I moved in with her in the beginning of COVID. We moved into the home I live in now together. But once I became, as she called it, TERF, she deemed me untrustworthy. She couldn't trust me around her son anymore, which was incredibly hurtful because I had watched it. I was, I'm not going to say I was co-parenting with her, but I mean, we lived together in a home with this kid, and he had just turned 2, and then, so, it was 2 years that we were all together. So that was really painful. Luckily, I do have family members that agree with me, understand. So I really haven't lost any family, and my siblings and I, it's just kind of like agree to disagree that we aren't talking about it. And that's that. Although last Christmas when I went home, I was able to talk to my brother about Martine Rothblatt and use he pronouns because he did not know who Martine Rothblatt was. So that was very edifying for me. And I thought to myself, well, maybe if he looks up Martine Rothblatt and sees he's a woman, or he is identifying as a woman but is really a male, maybe that'll do something in his brain. I don't know. But, so yeah. And yeah, I mean, I lost other friends too, but they were more of acquaintances than friends. The two that really hurt were the ones I had known half my life. And my siblings, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's very heartbreaking, because these are people that you trust, that you think are going to be, is my sound coming? That you think are going to be by your side for life, right? So we always have to find different ways to have these conversations. I think that's a great tactic. Talk about the power, the money behind it, these men that are pushing it, that a lot of people don't even realize that they're there in the behind the curtain. Thank you.
I was just going to add one other thing. When I really did start talking about this to one of my friends, her conclusion was, "Wow, you really hate men." And it was like, how are you jumping to that conclusion by me saying I don't want men in women's spaces? That's the equivalent of apparently me hating men. I do not hate men. I love my dad, my brother, cousins, I've had male friends that are wonderful. It's like, so the fact that, but like you said, Kristin, it's because if they actually address the topic, everything falls apart.
Right. Like your friend is pretty much admitting that she knows that those women trying to get into women's spaces are actually men. That's what happens.
Oh, she slipped up there,
And
didn't
one
she?
more thing, I think that a lot of people underestimate how hesitant people are to come out about their feelings about this. However, when someone comes at you and like calls you all these names and you're like, oh, well, that actually wasn't that bad. I might as well just, say how I really feel. Yeah.
Yes, it was incredibly nerve-wracking to start speaking out about this.
Mhm.
I thought about everybody that might, have those criticisms and what they would say, that anxiety of the worst case scenarios. And it was pretty bad, but I've survived and I've made some really great connections. So yeah, Aja, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say there's nothing wrong with hating predatory men. Um, no one's hating innocent men walking down the street, minding their own business. No one hates firefighters that are rescuing people from burning buildings.
Exactly what I told her. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I said I don't hate men. I said I hate bad men. I shouldn't. Like, that's weird. That's a weird thing to say. Sorry to interrupt, but yes, exactly.
Um, no, and so I'm an academic. Well, I've said this publicly before at Let Women Speak Tulsa. So I'm a PhD student at Oklahoma State University. I got my bachelor's and my master's degrees at Iowa State. And suffice to say, being an academic, I'm one of those people. School was a replacement for home and family. It has always been a safe space for me. And yes, it is where I shine and get validation and affirmation. Um, and that started to change because, academia, most spaces in academia, even in religious studies, are fairly center or even extremely liberal. And so whenever there's this line of thinking, ideology, that takes over, anyone that goes against it is seen as being, a Philistine, uneducated, backwards, or even, cruel. And when I started speaking out, at one point I did backtrack because there were three different literary journals or magazines that were going to publish a piece of mine until I don't know who, I think I have an idea of who it was. It might have been just a random person who decided to look at my Twitter um, when this editor posted that, the list of us that were getting published in the most in an upcoming journal. And or it might have been one of my friends who was no longer a friend who thought, oh, I don't think she should get published in this journal or this magazine because, the editor's trans. And the thing is, I wasn't even the massive gender critical feminist that I am now, the most aggressive radical feminist that I am now. I literally just reposted or shared that I was in accord with a state senator in, I think it was South Carolina, in fact, who is a black man and a Democrat and has a long history of being pro-gay, and he proposed a bill to make medical transition, so these gender surgeries, for only 18 and up. It was to be banned for minors. And I'm thinking, oh, well, who would be against that? Like, hey, adults, do your own thing. But like children, like, no, there's harm. There's been evidence to show that this can cause harm. Has caused harm. And so I didn't think that would be seen remotely offensive or untoward. And so I'm thinking, and so I get an email from this editor that my piece is getting pulled because I posted something that was transphobic recently on social media. And I'm thinking, what on earth? And then somebody else, and then somebody else. So I've lost publishing opportunities. Um, I have lost colleagues, peers, people no longer wanting to work with me, or no longer wanting me in the space because they think I have a problem with trans people. Um, People that have just yeah, ended friendships, no longer wanting to work with me or me to work in their space. They won't always explicitly state it. But it's there. It's there. And some people have explicitly told me when I've asked, like, oh, but I've noticed our interactions are different, or the vibe's different. What's going on? You're transphobic and trans exclusionary. Um, I have yeah, I am single and I've put myself out there and I've had many people um indirectly or directly state to me that they are no longer interested because I hate trans people. Um and that hurts the most because I am a lover girl. And to know that, someone actually likes me or cares about me, and then because I don't believe in pretending people are the opposite sex, like you suddenly are not interested anymore. Um, what this has done for our socializations as people, it's harmful. It's just ridiculous. I feel as though I mean, this is just like hundreds, thousands of years ago, and um, everyone's trying to argue that the Earth is flat. And I'm trying to scream, it's round! How can you not see that it's round? Yeah, that's what I've lost. The academic and professional opportunities have really hurt,
Yes.
but the social aspects, oh, that's a knife.
Yeah.
Isn't it
And
isn't it interesting how they say you hate trans people? It's like I tried. Alex and I were in a political Facebook group, which I think I left after a few weeks. I don't know if you got kicked out or you left. I got a warning within the first 24 hours of being in this group because I said I don't have transphobia because trans people don't exist. And they were like, "You're erasing trans people." I said, "No, men and women exist. I don't hate anyone for being their sex. What I'm trying to say here is that sex is not mutable. So what the hell are you saying that I hate trans people or I'm afraid of them? They don't exist in the first place. Are there men that dress up as, put frocks on and stuff? Yeah. They want to come into our spaces? Yes. Are there women that are getting double mastectomies to present as a man? Yes. Still a woman. You could alter your body any sort of way. It's cosmetic surgery. It's not a sex change.
Ah, yes. I mean, and it just, and so I'm Jewish. I did convert, and I was friends with this woman I met at the synagogue, and we were chatting, and she had an issue with so reforming certain. Basically, most Jews are either they drink the gender Kool-Aid, or they believe in, appeasing and being kind and not stressing out these very sad, confused people. Like we're just gonna play along. I don't. And I'm pretty much the only one in the Oklahoma Jewish community I know of that doesn't play into it. And so I was spending a Shabbat. I was hanging out on a Saturday evening with this woman I'd become friends with at my synagogue. And she was talking about this trans identifying man who calls himself a woman and calls himself a lesbian, that was also a conversion student. And she had an issue with him, but not because of the trans thing, but I forgot something they'd like disagreed on or whatever the issue. And I forgot what. And I said something like, "Well, I don't like the fact that he calls himself a lesbian." Oh, I didn't say it. I don't like the fact that so and so name. That's what I do. I use names. I don't like the fact that so and so says, he's a lesbian. And she says, "You don't think trans women can be lesbians?" And I pretty much, in a an incredibly erudite academic way, said no. This woman was going to be my mikvah witness. So basically, during the whole, right, the conversion formal ceremony, was going to be my witness, the person to stand there with me as I, go this journey. And about 2 weeks before, after like 2 weeks of not responding to my text messages, texted me and said that, she would no longer do it. And we've been friends. I'd been all up in her house. My child had been all up in her house. And all of a sudden, and she knew I was a lesbian, I refused to pretend a whole man, can be a lesbian. All of a sudden, we're no longer walking the same walk spiritually, have the same line of thought, have the same values, none of that. That's just out the door.
yep, this one issue, it's incredible. What I've seen and what really irritates me is it seems to be more acceptable to be racist to people as opposed to saying a man is a man. And I'm like, how did we get here? How is it unacceptable to say a man's a man, but you can do all these racist things and it's fine? And plus, they always say racist things, right? Like comparing black women to men. What? No. That's not
100%. It is
not it.
astounding to me. If I were to, wake up the next tomorrow and say, you know what, I've been hiding this. I feel like, I'm a man. My new name is Brian. Call me he, him. I would have literally hundreds of people, even in the conservative red state of Oklahoma, stand beside me. But if I were to, next day say, I feel because, especially because that I'm an academic, I'm so erudite, so verbose. I really should be a white woman. Let me straighten my hair and take the vitiligo treatment to make my skin white. My new name will be Mary Beth Catherine. They would say, Aja, do you need to go to the hospital? What trauma in your life makes you think this way? All the things we should be asking of trans identifying people. And it is astounding. And yes, I could go. I will end here and let someone else speak.
Okay.
The things, the horseshoe theory of this all. These people are so sexist, racist, regressive. They are disgusting, and I am so tired of them conflating any
Absolutely.
and everything with this nonsense with being black or brown. And they
Hmm.
are literally using every single black, brown, and Asian person as a disgusting puppet. And the second someone says anything not in line, the vitriol out of their mouth
Hmm.
is just as disgusting as any white
Exactly.
supremacist, white nationalist psychopath. Every single time. I've had in every graduate program I've been around, English one, I will say this, people have been so lovely to me until I all of a sudden step outside of this little
Mm.
prescriptive box that they've allowed me to exist in. And they want to talk about how all these other right-wing lunatics or this is that and the other. I see the exact same with the left.
Right. Yes, I love your passion. It's great because they've actually stolen all of our movements. They've tried to co-opt all of them, everything, from civil rights to our heroes throughout history that have had to, pretend to be something they weren't just to get by. And it's absolutely disgusting. But I do want to move on to the work you've done. I'd love to hear a little bit about what kind of work you've done in this movement. I know some of us are writers, some of us have done on the ground work, and tried to have the conversations with individuals. We've done a lot, so I'd love to just have those conversations, and I'm going to start with Kristin.
Sure. Most of my stuff is writing. I've co-written the WDI USA Black Women's Caucus Statement Against Gender Ideology. There was also a follow-up to that one on sports. Um, and also on my Substack, I write a lot on this subject because women are very important to me. And also, as the mom of a daughter, I would like very much for her to not have to fight these same battles in 20 years. However, I will make very well sure that she is prepared to if she needs to. Yeah.
Great, thank you. And we're just going to go around the way that you are on my computer. I don't know if it's the same for you all, but so Jules, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have attended I've done some boots on the ground work. Um, Pinwheel Art and I, the first time we went in person, I flew to South Carolina and we drove up to Washington, D.C. together to speak in front of the White House when Kelly J. Keene came. And that was in March of 2022. So I had just peaked like 4 months previous to that. I was terrified. I really didn't know what I was saying. Well, I knew what I was saying, but it's so much. There's so much. It's not just one issue when it comes to transgenderism. Like I said, I learned quickly. It's gender identity ideology. It's queer theory. It's transhumanism. All of these things are feeding the same machine. And so it's hard to hard to encapsulate it all. But yeah, I spoke there. That was the first time I had spoken out. And then Kelly J. Keene came down here. She was doing her world tour. And I was part of the group that organized. And we met up on Hollywood and Highland. And I filmed. I was filming for that, for Amy Souza's live feed. Amy Souza and Kay Yang. And I spoke there as well. And then, God, what else have I done? Oh, right. And then in January of 2023, I went down to Santee, California to the YMCA, where there was a Latin religious organization that had organized a protest around a 17-year-old girl who had turned around and seen a male in the women's locker room, and she went to the city council meeting, and she was pretty much brushed to the side, and she's like in tears when she's talking, practically in tears, and she's saying, what if I think she has a sister, 6 or 7-year-old, don't quote me on that, but I know she was 17 herself, had a younger sister that she was like, what if he turned around? She was in there with me, and she talked about how terrified she was, and there were some counter protesters there, but it was a really good opportunity to talk to people, because then I really, really felt comfortable to explain what was going on. And I had a couple come up to me and ask me, the interesting part about this one is that YMCA actually did have a third space. And I had this couple come up to me because I was wearing my woman, adult, human, female t-shirt. So I was pretty identifiable who I was there to support. And they said, well, if there was a third space, why wasn't he in it? And I said, exactly. I said, because crossing our boundaries, violating our boundaries and our safety and our dignity, our integrity, that is all part of the game. It's not about a third space. We could have third spaces all over this country and they will not be used. Not by those men anyway. That's because that doesn't fulfill their desires. And then Kelly J came down here last year to a Starbucks. I met up with her there. And it was a really fun meeting. She asked us all what we thought, where was this all leading? I told her I think it's transhumanism. That's my true belief.
I'd love to hear more about that too. Can you go into just, a brief kind of telling us briefly about what you found when you started digging into kind of Judith Butler and all the players in this?
Sure. So what like I said, I peeked very quickly at this because I had a friend that was telling me, you've got to look up Judith Butler. She was like, I don't know who decided that this woman is like the grand high priestess of gender, but someone did. And so as soon as I Googled her and I started to look up, her book, Gender Trouble. I haven't read it, but I read a lot of interviews with her. I read a lot of biographies. I read a lot about her, articles about her, articles that she wrote. And I thought to myself, it's very clear to me that this woman is trying to convince people that their mind and their bodies are two different things, which is not true. Like, I'm no scientist, I'm not a biologist, but I was like, what about the medulla oblongata? Like, what about that thing that connects our spine to our brain? And we are holistic beings, and the body keeps the score. Like, I've always believed all these things. And so I was like, why is everyone listening to this ridiculous woman? This doesn't make any sense just on a core biology. Like, I learned this in freshman year of high school. But like you said, Aja, that makes me sound like an idiot because, you just took high school. I'm not going to be respected in academic circles. And so, but it was really obvious to me because I went, okay, who's going to benefit from teaching people that their mind and their body are not connected? Pedophiles. That seemed pretty damn obvious to me. Like, how, I don't know how people don't make that connection. And then the transhumanism aspect came into play. I'm not sure how I happened upon Martine Rothblatt. But I did, and then I was like, there's the same end goal here. They want us out of our bodies. They want us out of our bodies. Women in particular. Not men. Women. And Martine Rothblatt is an insidious human being. And transhumanism, I think, is a little more prominent than people realize. There's actually a transhumanist political party that was started in 2016. There's a man here in California that's run under the transhumanist political party as governor. He's running this year as well, but he realized the transhumanist party ticket ain't going to do it. So I think he's running as a Democrat this year. But I could go on and on about transhumanism.
Say his name.
Oh, yes. His name is Zoltan Istvan. And he actually drove a bus shaped like a coffin from California to the White House to distribute the Transhumanist Bill of Rights. I think that happened in 2016. And if you look at interviews with him, he is kind of a child, in my opinion. He seems like kind of a wide-eyed child that's so fascinated by Chat GPT and AI, but he has no clue how it works. He's out there making nootropic wine. Like, yeah. And then and they're all about living forever too, or raising above the human existence. The human existence means nothing, and trans does the same thing. They are better than the rest. They are more moral. They're more dignified. Like Aja said, we are just the stupid ones that don't get it yet. Yeah.
And you have your Substack coming out, and I will put all these links. I'll put Kristin's and yours, and if you have a link that you want to share as well, I'll put these links in the notes underneath the video so that people can, follow them and learn more about this issue.
Yeah, that'd be, like I said, I haven't, it's called Darker Than the Devil right now. I'm not sure if I could change it to Behind is in Front. If I can, I will. If not, Darker Than the Devil works just as good.
Great, thank you so much. And Aja, go ahead, share your work that you've done in this movement.
Yes, so I am a writer. I typically write poems, short stories, essays, which I've gotten submitted. I've recently have a piece coming up. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. With Nevelyn's work, an anthology, She Holds the Line, and it's Black women speaking their ideology, and I'm so, so excited and so proud of it. I have a poem coming up in Jill Magazine, which is a magazine for lesbians by lesbians. I think I might try to get something published in Lesbian Connection, but I've also done Let Women Speak when Kelly J. Keene came to Tulsa, and I've presented at WDI conferences, at Wolf Rad Femme Summer Camp. And as a historian, I just like to connect the threads and get the information out there to people in a way that's accessible, because a lot of information is either in a written form that is not accessible or it's not digestible. No one wants to sit and read it. But I am quite the show woman, and so I do like to put on a show for people and get people to see what's going on, know what's going on, know the history, and be able to connect those threads for themselves when they see it come up on a TV show or hear it in a song, or when there's misinformation being spread online, which is so prominent. It's sad, and I'm terrified with AI. I mean, sometimes I even get fooled by it. And I'm so worried with their way they're able to make things so just copy, paste, and they imitate something that's real, slap a few lies under it, people think it's truth. And so I'm just bringing truth to the masses. I really do need to do my own Substack, but I'm always so busy writing for school. But I do need to start my own Substack. And I do have a website with a lot of my publications and presentations, ajalines.com. Would love it if people would take a look, and to read and to listen, and always feel free to reach out.
I did forget one thing. I do want to give WDI a shout out because they are the ones that really did, they were my savior when I first came to this. And I was really honored to be a host and moderator for the Saturday meetings for a year and a half. So that's another thing I did to contribute. And it was really fun. And I got to meet women. I still attend even though I'm not moderating. And meeting women from all over the world is incredibly, what an opportunity. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yes, I also love WDI, and I know you ladies work with WDI as well. They are a great platform to connect. If anybody's interested in connecting, who's listening to this, you want to find more women. Myself, of course, I love connecting women. That's a lot of the work that I was doing when I first started. I was just trying to network and find the women. That's the reason I got an X, Twitter, whatever account. I was avoiding that place for a very long time, but then I realized that a lot of women were on there, and it's been a great way to connect and network and find the women for the on the ground actions that we've done. So that's kind of where I started. I eventually want to work into speaking in the birthing communities more, but this initially helped me form my arguments and, really see the issues by connecting with many women from around the globe, which I think is so great about WDI, is you get to hear stories from all kinds of women. I mean, from every continent. You like places you wouldn't even imagine, places that are having other issues as opposed to this, like they're, like Afghanistan, where the women can't even speak or be seen or work or learn. There's so much going on around the world. Um, and I've been so grateful to be able to connect with women who are actually fighting those fights. So I started organizing. I've talked to many women, and we came up with an idea to do free speech for women events. And I think we kind of had these ideas simultaneously. I started working with a group called Femax News, and you have like Thistle is she in Wisconsin? I don't want to, I think she's in Wisconsin. Yeah. So these women were looking to do on the ground speaking events. Since we're such a big nation, we had to organize more regionally as opposed to by, just state or anything like that. Whereas in what we see in the UK, it's a little more, it's a little easier for them to organized because they're about the size of one of our, like Texas or something. They could fit inside Texas, their population. So we had to figure out ways to fight this, on this giant landmass. So we started connecting with women, finding women in our areas. I was taking down notes of where each woman was so we could find women in our areas. And the idea was free speech for women. So if you could gather at least 4 women, then you could have an event on the ground. And of course, depending on where you were, you had to take various precautions. Luckily, here in the South, I didn't feel like I needed to do too much communicating with the police. However, other places, they were harassed. And on this channel, the TERF Gun Club channel, you can see those videos. I've put all the playlists, ones of just our events, and then ones where we faced violence. So they would take blow horns and yell in our faces and, try not to touch people, but they would have their signs in your face and they would have umbrellas and just trying to silence us because that's really all they had, right? Was silencing us. They couldn't, sorry, I got a little distraction here, but they couldn't have a debate with us. For the longest time, the phrase was no debate, as if anybody who has fought for their rights has ever had just no debate. Um, just give me one moment. Sorry, that's a house with 5 kids. So, uh, yeah, so they couldn't have debate. So it was no debate, which I always found really just insane. Like, how can anybody hear these people say no debate and think that they have an argument? Like, women have never said no debate. We've been debating our humanity for ages, It's never been no debate. So I just found that incredibly, like so many things should have woke people up, right? So many things should have been like, oh, that's not right. What do you mean, no debate? Oh, well, why are you so aggressive about this? Why are you just calling names instead of having a conversation? And of course, our voices were very, very suppressed. We don't get on the news. Kara Dansky, her work, her just directness has been great, but who could she talk to? Tucker Carlson. That's the only person that would give her a platform. And, maybe some other obscure people. But so I was very much trying to make our own media. So this is a record of our descent, right? We were trying to get our own media out there, do these live recordings. We did great. We organized on the ground here. I did an event in my city and gathered a few women and we all spoke. Some women came from Florida, some women up from North Carolina. And so that was the great thing about doing it regionally. We were able to get women close by to come to an event in each state. And then we started organizing more in Florida. We had a great group of women that were doing events down there. We did multiple ones when Kelly J came. My first one was with you in DC, of course. We drove up to DC, that crazy trip, on very little sleep, but it was amazing. And then her US tour that she did, we did in front of the Teats doctor. I will not say her name right. Yes, she's definitely a psychopath.
Siobhan
Uh,
something, I think. Is that
it
Siobhan? I think is how you say it.
no, it's like Sabi
Sippy
Gallagher.
Gallagher. Yeah.
Yeah, it's her first name. I have trouble with,
Yeah.
but Gallagher, yeah, is her last name.
Yeah, I
So
think
we
it's
went to
pronounced
that. Oh,
Juliana.
sorry.
I think it's pronounced like how Juliana said it, even with the
What,
B,
what was it?
right? I think it's pronounced how Juliana said it, I
Oh,
believe.
say it again.
Siobhan?
It is
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Siobhan.
it's a Gaelic thing. I think the B is pronounced
Gaelic,
like a
exactly.
Z.
It's Irish.
All right, I've never heard it said that way.
The only reason I know that is because there's an artist I really love that has a song called "This Beard Is for Siobhan," and it's spelled the same way.
Oh wow. Okay. So that's amazing. I never realized that. And I really don't think I've ever heard anybody say her name like that. That's thank you. Thank you for that education. Um, but we did an event in front of her office. It was really great. We had lots of women there, all ages. My daughter was there, who was, I believe, 12 or 13 at the time. She did a speech. She's been such a great support because, she's a teenager and she's growing in with all this stuff and she sees it in her schools and with her friends. And so she wanted to speak out. Of course, it was always a choice for her. She wrote her own speeches. And luckily, I don't think she's faced too much pushback for it. Her friends all have seemed pretty understanding, even if they didn't agree with her, which I think is beautiful. That's how we should be. We should be able to have these conversations. So that was a great event. I really love my speech that I did at that event about the mastectomies because this is just a tragedy that I don't think anybody fully grasps. Like we were talking about before we started recording, the importance of breastfeeding and having our breasts for our babies. And you just do not know the gravity of that at a very young age. Not even in your 20s do you know the gravity of that. A lot of adults in their 40s or older, they don't know the gravity of that because we haven't been informed on that anatomy. That's another thing that woke me up about this too. Like I was so aware of our anatomy being in birth work and how our hormones affect our bodies that when I saw that they were messing with people's hormones to this extreme, that was like, how do people not understand? We are our hormones. Our hormones, they they are our development, they are our sleep, they are our eating patterns. It's everything. To destroy that, to mess with that is so unethical. But I've gone off topic. So I did a lot of organizing free speech for women. And now I'm moving my focus more to the birth world, where I'm speaking out there and speaking about the harm of the language in that realm. And I've actually started a Facebook group where we could have discussions. I think women are hesitant because it's not a private group, but my thing is we need to have these conversations publicly. If we aren't putting this out publicly, nothing's going to happen. We have to be public, we have to be direct, and we have to stand our ground. So I want to encourage women to do that. I want to connect women with women in their areas, and I want to get this out of birth work. It should not be there. It should not be on every web page that I go to. So many women have told me they do not like the language, that it feels dehumanizing, it's insulting, and they are mothers and they are proud of that. They are women and they are proud of that. And we're the only ones that have these superpowers to create life, which is why the transhumanists want to get us because they want to be God. They want to create life, but that's us. That's your God right there, that woman birthing the universe, okay? They hate that. They hate us. They hate us because we are powerful and we are the bearers of life and death. So I just want to, I really want to work in that area, and it's very scary because that could be my career. I want to do birth work, and speaking out about this stuff could really have me just completely shunned in my community. I've already gotten it from some of the doulas around the area. Um, So that's the work I've been doing. And I mean, there's so much we could talk about. This is such a huge topic.
Can I say something real quick? Because one thing
Yes.
I did forget, and even though it's not a bill that got passed, anyone that's watching this, there was a bill that we were trying to get a bunch of enough signatures for to put it on the ballot. It was called the Protect Kids California bill. And that's something that I went and got signatures to try and get it on the ballot, because the reason that we have, California law is insane because of pretty much one man, and his name is Scott Wiener. And, when I finally, Kelly J. Keene has her Turf Talk Tuesday, and about a year and a half ago, I finally got through. I called like 28 times, and I was the last caller on that one episode. I finally made it. And I was able to talk to her about this, and she was like, so what? Like, what's the big deal? Are people in California actually going to vote against this? And it's like, yes, the reason that these insane laws are being put in is because the people are not voting on it. The people are not being asked. This is all legislation. And if you look at it, who benefits? This is big pharma. You are making medical patients for life when you cut women's healthy breasts off, when you castrate young men, when you start giving children puberty blockers. And that was another thing that piqued me, Alex, is there's a woman I followed on Twitter. She is now a quote-unquote man. Her name is Amanda Jette Knox. She's a Canadian, and she was posting how wonderful it was that she was taking her 14 or 15-year-old to go get hormones. I was like, whoa, wait a second. So we're messing with like healthy children's bodies? This does not seem right. Again, I'm no doctor, but I do have intuition, and I'm not a dumb person, and this just seems not good. Like, why are you going to mess with someone's healthy endocrine system, healthy hormone system? Why are you doing this? It's so detrimental. Like, I remember thinking just no good can come of this. And it was her child that actually came out first. It was a boy. He was like, I'm a girl. And then a year later, her husband was like, oh yeah, me too. And people were celebrating this on Twitter. Oh my God, how wonderful. And my first thought was, what trauma is going on in that household? Because this is not normal. And now she's gone through every iteration of transmasculine, non-binary, ENB, all this shit. And now she's a quote trans man living with 3 trans women. Tell me how that's going to end happily. You're living with 3 autogynephiles, which I don't know if we've used that term yet.
Not. Go ahead and define it for us if you can.
And I don't use it all that often, but an autogynephile, which is what a lot of these men, these grown men that have been married in heterosexual relationships, they get a sexual thrill out of wearing women's clothing. Right? Now, not all men who want to transition, quote unquote, who desire to be women are this. And I feel for all the young ones. Like, this is not, they don't have the ability to make these decisions. And, Jazz Jennings, for instance, I mean, that's
Tragedy. Quite.
that's the parents. All these young people, it's the parents, or it's the hospitals. Like, you have Chloe Cole, who got a double mastectomy at 13 or 14 years old, given to her by Kaiser. So, it's the hospitals, it's parents, it's therapists that are pushing these children through without, there's a woman, a psych girl, oh man, she's Dr. P on Twitter, but she's absolutely amazing. If any of you are on Twitter that are watching, follow this woman, Psych Girl. She might have a few numbers after her, but if you just look up at Psych Girl, it'll come up, and she is rapid about this topic in a wonderful way. She's unforgiving. But she has been a psychotherapist for a very long time, 30 plus years. She sees right through it, as anyone should, who is not there for profit.
Yeah, and those kids are being used to justify the males, right? The older males who are into this as a fetish. They're saying, oh, well, there's trans kids. This is just an innate thing. It's always been a thing. And it's so incredibly harmful. And I'm with you. Like, I do not understand how people don't see it. One of the first videos I saw, I think it was it was, I think Kai, no, I'm not even gonna try with the name, but it was a little boy. There's like two of them. I think there's one in the UK and one in the US that are basically the same, where you see these parents and it's clearly homophobia. They have a effeminate son and they don't want him to be gay, but if he's a girl, he'll be straight. So they start them on this path when they're little children, and it's homophobia. It's clear homophobia. Clearly, they were abusing this child. And the comments under the video are, oh, you're such a great mom. Oh, you're so great. Oh, you did a wonderful job. Oh, how good of you. And I'm like, is it me? This makes no sense. Luckily, there were some comments saying the same thing because it should be obvious. It's like, how did we get here? You know, people talk about all these ways, all these conspiracies of they are manipulating us with this screen in front of our faces. They don't need any other kind of mind control. This is doing great.
Oh, and it's Psych Girl 211 on Twitter.
Great, thank you. Yes, I've definitely seen her speak, and I've seen a couple interviews. I think she did at least one interview that I've seen her in. But yeah, we have lots of, people on this who are scientists, who are biologists, who are speaking out against it. Not enough, in my opinion, but this is not based in science. It's not even basic science. This is it when you even get into the complexities of it. It makes no sense. You have males, females, and people with I've always used the word divergence of sexual development. That was the first way I heard it, and I like that term. But people use many different terms for it, differences, and then there's of course the intersex term. And the thing is, all those people are either male or female. All of those divergence fall under male DSD or female DSD. So still, you don't, they parrot things. You see these same phrases over and over and over again, and they don't even know the science. They've never looked into it. So
Well,
yeah, so now, oh, sorry, go ahead.
another thing that you mentioned, intersex, one of the like brainwashing things I had to get over was that I was taught in a upper division anthropology course that I took. I went to Cal State Northridge, and it was cultural anthropology. I can't believe I remember this. It was like over 20 years ago. Anthropology 308. And the book, I can't remember what the book that we had was called. Actually, it's right over there. I just can't see all that far away. Gender in Cross-Cultural Studies. That's what the book was called. And in that class, I learned that trans has been around since the dawn of time. It was the same thing as intersex, and that it was in a oh Lord, what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't matter. Intersex, and that they were typically thought of to be, again, better than the rest. That these people that seem to have two parts or like ambiguous genitalia were the shamans and the medicine women or the medicine men because they were not mere mortals. And I learned that at age 20, which was 20 years ago. So I gave my age, big deal. But yeah, and that was, again, an upper division college course. And I remember when I was learning about all this, all that came flooding back to me, and I was like, man, they've been lying to me for 20 years. Like, longer, if I'd been around for longer, but yeah.
Yes, they've been pushing it for some time, right? We have Janice Raymond, who wrote her book, Transsexual Empire, and that was right on the end of the 70s. So yeah, so it's been being pushed into our institutions slowly but surely. That's what I wanted to say about the laws and things. It hasn't been people voting. They haven't even been aware. This stuff has been pushed in under the radar, giving people the idea that it's been there all along, when really it hasn't. As we know, women had to fight for single sex spaces. It hasn't been, oh yeah, guys are coming and they've been coming in there all this time. What are you talking about? No. No, they have not. Because guess what? I've been going in women's single sex spaces my whole life. And not once have I ever seen a man in any of those spaces. Not once. And yes, I would know. So I do want to move on to what you see the future of this. Like, do you think we're all just screwed? Or do you see a future? Do you see, do you see us winning this? Do you see us in my opinion, I think we're going to have to get to a point where we kind of just opt out. That's my thing. I've done that with a lot of institutions that are harmful to women. I try to avoid those. I try to avoid hospitals. That's why I'm very much into birth work and encouraging women to get out of those institutions as much as possible. I know it's not always possible, but you can opt out of a lot of things. Like you can opt out of some of the technology. We can opt out of a lot of these institutions that aren't serving us. And what I would like to see is women forming groups that are making our own institutions, made for women by women, because so much of this stuff is actually killing us. So we really need to, I think, look towards that in the future, is forming our own spaces. And I will let you all now share your ideas or visions or terrors, whatever. And we'll just start with Kristin again. And we are going to try to wrap up in the next 10, 15 minutes, if that's all right.
Okay, so another thing that I also do with writing is if there is policy that I feel very strongly about, I will write to the committee that that policy is going to. I think, well, I know that when language detaches from reality, policy follows. And also, it's been my experience that there are some people on those committees who have concerns but don't exactly know how to verbalize it. So when you write to them, you are giving them the words that they can't quite get to. And you're addressing the concern, you're getting the concerns that you have addressed by someone who probably also has those concerns. So it's very important to stay very aware of what policies are going through your legislature and to be vocal. If you can't go there and actually give testimony there live, try to submit it or email the people on the committee. Just make sure your voice is heard.
Great. I love that. That's such wonderful advice because they don't have the language. Those of us who have been on this for years, we have the language. We know the arguments. We've been doing it so long. We know it in and out. As I say, we are the experts and we need to share the language. I mean, that's the only reason Trump was able to write that executive order, is because he had women who had been there, done that, and knew the language to put into that thing. If they don't have it, what are they going to do? They don't even know where to start because it is so convoluted. It makes no sense. It's like you said, when the language loses, what did you say, strays from reality, then so does policy.
Yeah, when it detaches from reality.
Yes, thank you. Beautiful. Thank you so much for
Also,
sharing that.
one more
And that
thing.
work.
Yes. Also, actually, I forgot my point.
Oh no, I'm sorry. If you remember, just cut in. Just we obviously talk a lot and you're not talking as much. So
Yeah.
just cut us off. And go ahead, Juliana. The future.
Yeah, I do think we will be successful. And I think that, again, ultimately in my brain, this queer theory merges with transhumanism. They want the same goal. They have the same goal, right? They're the same desire, but it's not going to happen. I truly do believe humanity will win out. I do not think that they can override people's basic senses. They've been able to do it for a group of folks. And I think that group, it's sad, but I don't think it's a majority of humanity. And when you look at the whole entire world, I mean, one of the things that when I learned, again, that we were cutting off healthy body parts and giving women, taking their sexual function away, giving them clitorectomies and all this stuff. I just remember thinking back, like, when this is done in third world countries, it's an atrocity. It is a crime against humanity. But when you do it under the guise of gender affirming care, it's okay? That doesn't make any sense. I have to believe that sense will win. And I do believe that.
Wonderful. Yes, I do have hope for humanity. I do. I know I can get pretty just I don't know. It gets depressing. It's a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot to think about my children's future, and
It gets very depressing, especially when these men are really, again, the transhumanist aspect. They're doing everything to live
Yes.
forever. Cryogenics is another area. Like Martin Rothblatt had his hand in literally every possible way you could live forever. Going to Mars, freezing himself, creating a robot head of his wife to upload her consciousness because somehow that means that you will live forever. If your consciousness is uploaded into a computer, you're eternal. It is so removed from our actual flesh. It's disheartening, but they will not win.
Yeah. No, it's destined to fail, absolutely. I'm really concerned about the damage that they'll do trying, I think is what it is mostly. And I just, being in this movement has given me hope, seeing so many women who are fighting and who are brave and, don't let the fact of being just ostracized, they don't let that get in the way because they realize that it's a much more important fight that they're fighting. And so I just want to say I love you all. I appreciate you. And go ahead, Aja, tell us about the future.
You know, not to be a Debbie Downer, I see things as quite bleak. And I say that because, um, one, it's becoming difficult to impossible to opt out. And this is being done primarily with capital. I mean, think about how many people are struggling financially. So many people would love to boycott Walmart. Some people, that's their only option for literally 100 miles. Um, or they can't afford anything else. Anything that would be remotely of the same price is nearly inaccessible either by distance or by shipping costs. Um, and I say this I don't want anyone to feel shame for any way they're trying to survive in this ridiculous world. Um, Sometimes I get nervous and don't want to use the public restroom for fear. There is a man in there. But some women, as we all know, they don't have the option to hold going to the bathroom. Many of us women do not have that option. And so I think with how much things are being restricted, tied to money, um, I mean, even I wish I could totally unplug from social media. But I just recently bought a book of stamps is $16-20. So even if I were to just solely communicate with people, but I've sent out my Hanukkah cards. I'm like, oh my God, I spent $60 in stamps just trying to be in community. So with literally the ease of the day to day being placed on the grid online, I am worried that people will it will be a fight to the death to keep people attached to the real, to the material, to the tangible, because it's almost impossible to opt out of AI at this point. And so I am concerned. I think there will be a number of men and women that will try to keep a firm grasp on reality and fight to keep people in reality. I think I agree with Kristin that, I mean, I, for one, when the governor of Iowa, Kim Reynolds, removed transgender as a civil rights protection from the state, the town of Iowa City, town of Ames have put that into their, city ordinances and such. But that was beautiful. I emailed her. It got to a point where I was almost sending a message to her office once a week, thanking her and talking about the many ways, that will help women, the ways this has harmed women, the horrible, disgusting conflations that are made. And so I think if people can find ways to remain connected in communication on the ground, local, I mean, I will close with this. It's easy for hundreds, thousands of people to show up at one march, one day, once every couple of years. The small, tedious work of emailing local politicians who will actually email you back within a couple of weeks or a couple of months. That's where you that's where we can get somewhere. If we can get enough people to do that, we might get somewhere.
Yes, absolutely. I agree. Just let me say one thing, because that is something that I did at the beginning of this as well. I did postcard stamps because they're a little cheaper. And so I made tons of postcards and I sent them out to everybody in the Senate and the House. And that's so necessary. And we need people to do that on both sides, but especially with the liberals who are, just keep pushing and pushing and pushing this. They need to know that there are people, there are women who are suffering, who are trying to fight this, who do not agree with it, who know the issue and don't see it as just this let's be kind thing as some of them may think it is. We've had a couple, pretty strong voices speak out, but not enough. So we do need to contact. Yes, let's contact our representatives again and again and again. Great advice. Love it. And Jules, you had your hand up.
I had one more question maybe that we can ask before I think we're going to wrap up shortly, but if any of you, what, let's say 2 to 3 or 4 women would you recommend people look up to kind of get an idea about this? Or who have you enjoyed reading and getting informed by?
That's a great question. Does anybody want to go first? Would you like to go first, Jules?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. Oh, I am, because I have to think about it a little bit. Let's see. So someone that I've been looking at recently, and she just kind of brings the news together, is Irene. I don't think her last name's Britt. I think it's Irene Britt USA, because she's a British woman here in the USA, and she's been doing some really great videos. Some other people I really love Kristin's Substack. I wish I could read it more, but she's putting out some really great work on the legislation, not just around this issue, but a lot of other issues as well. Let me think. So, because I've fallen back. I used to kind of watch everything and take it all in and form my arguments, but now I've kind of gone back a little bit. I think Jules, your Substack, get that up, because that is going to be such a great resource to learn where all the money and the power is coming from. We have Billick who does that, but I feel like you're taking it to a whole new level. So I'm going to recommend you and share that around. And then of course, Kelly J has some really great videos. She's just very direct, very, very direct. And that's what we need. We need to be direct and stern and use proper language, the language of reality, and not let go of that. Just hold the ground on that. And then, women like Kara Dansky here in the States, she's like that as well, very direct. And if we can, get her words out, that would be great. Yeah, I'll let you all share some of yours, because those are a few of mine. I'm sure I'll think of more later. So, Kristin, do you have some?
Kara Dansky, of course, is the first to come to mind. That's, I guess, the only place that I'm like always, I'm reading pretty much everything that she puts out that I can get to. There are a lot of other people that I dabble around in, but none of their names are popping into my head right now.
All right. I second Alex with Kristin's Substack. It's incredibly well written, well informed. It's concise, easy to digest. Really, really, just well done, Kristin. Helen Joyce is a name that I have looked at that since the beginning. I found her, and I like Helen Joyce's approach because she's got a feminist bend, but it's more, to me, she's more of a humanitarian. She comes at it from a more humanitarian lens than a radical feminist lens. I think we need both of them. But because I kind of came at it from a humanitarian thing of like, oh my God, gender ideology leads to pedophilia, transhumanism leads to pedophilia. Like, I was not coming at it from a rad feminist lens in the beginning. So I tend to resonate with a lot of what she writes. And the other one I would say is Mary Harrington. Mary Harrington says some pretty radical things. She has an amazing interview with the Trigonometry Boys. I want to say it was posted 2 years ago. It's about, her book is Feminism Against Progress. And I think it's a really fascinating concept. I think she's spot on a lot of times. She talks about the cyborg revolution, which is essentially transhumanism. And she said something that I found really kind of revolutionary in that interview and in her book. Back when I'm a writer as well, I studied screenwriting. So that's, I think, another reason I came to this, because we're all artists here in some way, shape, or form. And artists, I remember being taught in school that an artist's job is to tell the truth. And if you can't identify the truth, how can you tell it? So, I remember when the Morning After bill came out, I wrote this piece. I don't know, I would call them observational essays. I guess it's prose, but whatever. Have we evolved past God? And Mary Harrington took it back even further and was like, no, it was the inception of the birth control pill because we were controlling a natural reproductive cycle. And I was like, wow, that is a really fascinating take. So anyone that's interested in transhumanism, Mary Harrington, I think, and of course Bielik. But Harrington comes at it from a bit more of a academic, whereas Bielik is a bit follow the money, or Bielik. I apologize if I'm saying her name incorrectly. But Helen Joyce really for the win, and yeah, I'm gonna write very similar to what Bielik writes, but I'm coming at it from a more philosophical, grand. I don't know, not necessarily the follow the money, but follow the belief systems. Thank you.
Yes, which is incredibly important because it is a belief system. It's like this whole new religion. It's it's very concerning. I just want to throw out two more, not specifically women. Well, of course, Amy Ichikawa, who does the women to women with the prisons. I'm always pushing her stuff, her website, because she's fabulous. She's been on lots of different lots of different interviews, but her voice should be lifted up so much more for those women in the prisons. She was even on Dr. Phil once, and he did not let her speak. She did not speak at all. Whether he let her or not, she should have been encouraged to speak because she has such an important thing to say. So definitely Amy Ichikawa with Women to Women. I'll put that link as well under the video. And Icons, the women's sport. They have done incredible work. Go watch their YouTubes. If these girls don't move you, nothing will. They are crying. They love what they do. They are desperate and just being, ignored. They've gotten some traction, obviously, which is great, but they need more. We need to end this. So go ahead, Aja.
Love all that's been shared. Definitely want to shout out Kristin's writing, absolutely wonderful. I also love Jennifer Billick, and I do think we need to have these women who are just kind of putting the facts out there. But I want to say a lot of this movement has been fought on pure, or the ideology, the gender ideology has been pushed on pure emotions. Look at these, sad people. How can you not feel compassion for them? How can you not want to make them feel safe and loved? And so I think for that reason, we also need some of the people that are, using pathos to get to pull people in. And so I thinking about, who I follow on Substack and such. So I love Sierra. She goes by Exolanzic, and her videos where she breaks down episodes of I Am Jazz. I think she calls the series I Am Jazz's Worst Nightmare, but she's actually pointing out the ways that you're seeing the abuse of this gender nonconforming little boy who was castrated, mutilated on television for millions and was forced as the face of, this movement for children. I love, Helen Joyce and such, and I do appreciate her more just sort of, logos-based, driven aspects of breaking things down, and it's not seen as from this, fight for women, perspective, but just, this is literal insanity, and here's how we're seeing this. This is how this is being pushed, and she does bring in the money aspect. Love Jennifer Billick, love Julie Bendel. I also love a woman named Nevlin, and she styles her name N, the number 3, VLYNNN, and she really shows a more from a lens of a same-sex attracted woman and how this is sort of influencing the social arena, but also friendships, connections, professional relationships. And she's just getting women's voices out there as well. Also, Scene and Publishing is talking about how this ideology is censoring writers, restricting what writers, are even allowed to write, what's getting published and put out there. And so I think. Yeah, that's what I'd have to say. And I know she's quite controversial, but I have to say, just for the jokes accessibility, Karen Davis of You're Kidding, right? I'm sorry, I love her videos. I love them. I love them. I love them. Unashamedly.
Great. Thank you. That's so great. So as you all are talking, I keep thinking of more and more. There's just one more that I really want to share because she does a Substack on the birth world and La Leche League, and it's really great. She's, pointed out all these issues, and it's so heartbreaking to see La Leche League buying into this stuff. But her name, she's on Substack, Lucy Leader. So that's Lucy leader Leader, and then it's bodies get in the way. And I get her, I get emails updating me on her Substacks, and they're always really good, very informative if you're, concerned about mothers and women in maternity care. So that's just the last one for me. And I guess we'll close out with anything that you all want to say. Anything else that you might have forgotten or want to share on any of this. Yeah, so we'll just go around one more time. Kristin, go ahead and we can close out and say our goodbyes.
Make sure your legislators hear from you. They need to hear from real people how these policies will affect people's real lives. Give them the words that they need to fight for you because that's their job.
Absolutely. Give them the words to fight for you. It is their job. They are our representatives, and they haven't been representing us very well. So go ahead, Juliana.
Oh, May Mailman, I wanted to mention. She's the one that helped Trump write that executive order that we were speaking about earlier. So May Mailman is another one to look up. Do not be fooled by people who are. Don't be fooled by the transhumanists because they tend to fly under the radar. Anytime you see something that says boundless life or boundaryless something or other, be suspicious. As RFK Jr., when he was running, his running mate, Nicole Shanahan, 100% a transhumanist. There were women in the feminist movement that was like, oh my God, I'm so glad he has a woman here. No. Look up her site. It's Bia Echo, BIA-ECO. She is clearly she wants women to be able to become pregnant until they're in their 60s. That is a transhumanist agenda. Anything transhumanist that you see, disregard it. It's garbage, and it's never going to happen. And it's part of the reason it won't happen is if you disregard it. So that and as Kelly J always says, courage speaks to courage. Kristin, you said something that reminded me of that. So just keep speaking up. We've all lost people. Hell, message us if you've lost people. We're here for you.
Yes, please reach out to us. We need to connect. We need to.
Yeah, you've heard what we have all gone through in a very short amount of time. So please feel free. Maybe Alex can put we have a TERF Gun Club email address. We can put that in the notes as well. Feel free to reach out to us if you need any kind of support or guidance or something, because like I said, we've all been here for years. And thank you for watching.
And Aja.
Yes, I also want to give another shout out to Amy Chikawa, who's a wonderful woman. Her work, I just want to tell everyone listening, watching, who reads this, is that, and the other, folks, a man is never going to be the most vulnerable in a room. It's just not the case. The reality is, if your problems can all go away by putting on a nice outfit, a nice suit, you're just not that marginalized and vulnerable. And so I want us to all think about the people in the world who are so marginalized and vulnerable. And it's going to be, low income women and children. It's going to be incarcerated women, incarcerated children, trafficked women, trafficked children. And so all movements against rights start with distractions. And gender ideology is a distraction. It is a clown show, literally clowns, sex clowning. And so I want people to, when you're reaching out, call and see about, are prisoners being segregated by sex? What are the policies, actions that are affecting low income people, particularly low income women and, children? What about, children in foster care children in these, placements for whether it's for their mental health or, juvenile delinquency, and just reaching out and seeing what's going on there. Those are the most marginalized. Those are the people susceptible to this ideology. Oh, you can just totally change and transform yourself. No, that's not how it works. That's what makes them even more marginalized by not addressing the root issue. And these are people being used and abused for profit. It comes down to money. They are a check. They are nothing but a check for the government, for these corporations, for these companies who do not address their mental health issues and the structural and systemic oppressions that force them down into institutions and then make them think they need to change their bodies.
Yes. Amen.
Yeah, the government does not care about these people. They do not care. Like Aja said, it's a paycheck. That's all.
Exactly. It's a whole lot of not helping the people that need help, but using those same people to, perpetuate all this nonsense. It's tragic, quite tragic. Well, I've just had a wonderful time. I was so excited about this meeting, and I'm so glad you ladies showed up. And we will probably likely do a part two or just continue kind of sessions like this with a few women. After the holidays, I'll probably schedule another one and then we'll see where it goes from there. Because this was a great conversation. Thank you so much. I hope anybody watching is getting well informed and motivated. Because, like you said, courage calls to courage. We need your voice. We need your voice. So, thank you, ladies, for being here this evening. And congratulations, Kristin, on your newest little addition. She is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I can't get enough of babies, so I'll just gush and gush. But anyhow, it was so nice being here with you all today. Thank you.